handle the truth.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to another great episode of Thursday Night Get Right. This is Thomas Freeme with Demetrius Knuckles Eel. He made it with us tonight. But this man, he made it. This man's on his way to Atlanta. I tell you, man, this man be moving, man. So he moves. So first and foremost, I want to give shouts out to all those that are trying to survive in the struggle. Many blessings with you. I hope that you're staying warm. I pray that you are, I pray that you're fed, you're around, good company, staying out of trouble. I pray, that these juveniles out here are catching our message here on Thursday Night Get Right, and that our words are getting out to these kids, and that we can, we can change some lives out there, D. I want to,
absolutely, man.
I want to, please, listeners, go to www.cominghomecoalition.com and make sure that you sign up for the raffle. Start fresh. Make sure you reach in for that. Again, there's nothing needed to purchase in this here, but donations are nice, to help Eddie get back on the feet. So with that being said, I'll pass the mic over to Mr. D.
Hey, good evening to everybody within the sound of my voice. And for those who are not within the sound of my voice, we ask that you please pass along the link to this podcast, pass along the link to the message, because we hope that you and anybody who you speak to or surround yourself with can be inspired by something and motivated to do more in life and better the life of not just yourself, but others around you. I want to give a special shout out to Michigan Liberation, arguably one of the hardest fighting criminal justice reform organizations in Michigan. That's Michigan Liberation. You can go to our link or our website, Facebook page, all of that, Twitter, and to Good Heart Youth, the Great Minds Project, and the Great Minds Project 5.0, because we putting in work out here. We ain't trying to save nobody. We just trying to teach people how to think, because if we can teach you how to think, you can save yourself. And that's the goal of this podcast. That's the goal of our mission. It's just, sure, we know we helping people, but our goal is just to get people to think.
Amen.
I pass it back to you.
Amen. Yep. Amen. I can't say no better. I mean, that's what I premise the show on is just try to get you to think. Listen, I'm not here to tell you what to do with your life. We're not here to tell you what to do with your organization or whatever. All we're here to tell you is to make sure that what you're doing has thought to it. That's all. Just make sure it has thought to it. Make sure that it's correct and that you're helping and not hurting, because there's a lot of organizations out here that, in my opinion, are hurting more than they're helping.
I agree.
So, with that being said, partner, how was your week?
Very, very, super, very busy with just having to juggle. Me and my girlfriend, she has a new house, so I'm trying to help her with that. My grandchildren, my goddaughter birthday today, and my son's birthday would have been today, and so it's just a lot of stuff that I've been dealing with throughout the week, trying to plan for Atlanta. We were supposed to go to Miami last week, but we called that off because it was just too much bunched up together. And I just started back, Michigan Liberation, we just started back our work week after a 30-day sabbatical yesterday. And we had meetings with the Michigan Supreme Court judge. It's a lot of stuff been going on, man, just this week alone.
Amen. And this is why this man passed out last week, y'all. I mean, that's why I said we can't, I know it. I know how that feels, but many blessings to you, D, on all your endeavors, man. And I pray that everything comes into fruition for you, but everything that you're trying to do comes into fruition as well, because I know your heart is solid, partner.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate it.
Well, we're going to get into tonight's discussion, man. And this is an individual by the name of Curtis Davis Jr. Curtis Davis Jr., his inmate number is 141274, is currently locked up in the Mississippi Department of Corrections. There's
Wow.
I've been dealing with Curtis for a while, off and on, helping him where I can. He has no support. This is an individual who is trying to proclaim his innocence on his own from inside a prison, and he's doing everything that he can to do that.
It's hard.
We what I've uncovered with Curtis, it's a very particular case because this is a man that pled out the second-degree murder. He pled out the second-degree murder, and there's DNA evidence that excludes him from being at the scene of the crime, having anything to do with the scene of the crime, nowhere in the house, nowhere around the scene of the crime, not on the murder weapon, nothing. But yet he pled to second-degree murder. This is where it gets hard, because when you take a plea bargain, when you plea, you sign a confession. It's almost impossible to overturn that, no matter what comes out. So this man has been in prison trying to overturn his case with this DNA evidence, and all he's getting from the court is that he pled guilty.
And that's interesting because I remember when I was appealing my case and I was telling the story about what the witnesses said on the day of the situation, on the day of the murder. The witnesses said it was three guys. It was a light-skinned guy. He was about 5'5", 5'6", 5'7", 140 pounds. And the other two guys were about 5'7", 140 pounds too. The guy who testified against me, who said he was with me, was 220 pounds, 6 feet tall, dark skinned. So I premised my argument on this analogy. I said the prosecutor allowed a stone to say he was a stick, when the prosecutor knew that stone was no stick, but because they wanted the case to be a victory for them, they allowed a stone to testify against me and say that he was a stick. You got a guy that's 220 pounds. That's a stone. That ain't no stick.
Right.
They was looking for a stick. But just to get a win, the prosecutors don't care about what the evidence really say. It's like grabbing a sound bite. If that sound bite sound good, that's what they're gonna use against you. They don't care nothing about the beginning of it or nothing about the end of it. They only care about that sound bite. That sound bite is that he signed a statement. They're not looking at why he signed a statement. Or why don't we look at his DNA? Because if his DNA say it wasn't him, then that means that he lied on his statement. Why would he lie? Because he was coerced.
That's right. And we're going to get into that coercion of exactly how, I titled this episode "When Your Family Turns on You," because we're brought up from kids to trust your family, to family comes first, all of these things. And there are some times in some situations where family can abuse that trust, because they know that trust is unprofound. They know that you never question that trust. And some family members can get into a situation in life where they abuse a person's trust to save their own self. And I feel that this may be the issue with Curtis Davis Jr. And it's simply because, before we get into it, it's simply because a statement was made to a sheriff that was simply not true. And it's proven by the DNA. So after we lay this out, the question is why? Why would the mother of Curtis's children, his wife, lie and say that Curtis was somewhere where DNA evidence shows him not to be? There's no evidence to show him to be there.
Wow.
So on December 1st, 2009, Curtis and his wife, Najalah Cage, woke up and went to their uncle's house to pick up a breathing machine for their youngest son. They just had an infant child, a young baby. He just came home from the hospital. Najalah and Curtis ended up staying at the uncle's house playing spades with the uncle till around 3 p.m. They left there, headed back to their house that they shared in Kilmichael, Mississippi. Because the uncle stayed so far in the country, cell phone service did not happen. So once we got close to the house, we shared that it was either one of the phones rang, and it was the cousin Betty, Curtis's cousin Betty Young. Now Betty Young is also a suspect in this here. Now Betty spoke to Najalah and said that she wanted one of them to come get her so that she could see the boys and the youngest baby as well. So they go through Starkville, Mississippi, dropped her and the youngest off at home, and drove to Winona and picked up Betty. So Curtis went and picked up Betty. They drove back to the house where they chilled for a little while, and Najalah took Betty back to her house in Winona by herself, which is about no more than 30 minutes there and back. Curtis stayed with the kids. Now, I know for a fact that Curtis stayed home with the kids because I spoke to Curtis's sister, and Curtis's sister told me that she had spoke to Curtis that night while he was there babysitting the kids. Curtis don't remember this conversation. He's like, it was just, he didn't remember the conversation, but she specifically remembered that conversation in the aftermath of everything that went on. But the curious thing about it is his sister is kind of standoffish as well. She wasn't very reluctant to reveal any kind of information, and it was almost like she was just in a hurry to get me off the phone. So wow. Not too long after that, Najalah pulled back up, and hold on. While Najalah was gone, her mom, Najalah's mom, and sister ended up coming to the house. Not too long afterwards, Najalah pulled up. So the mom and the sister came to the house where Curtis was at, and not too long after that, Najalah pulled up because it was nighttime. It was a Monday night, and Najalah's mom and sister didn't stay long. He says maybe about 20 minutes after Najalah got back, they stayed. About 20 minutes from the time Najalah's mom and sister left the house, Najalah got a call about her stepfather being dead. Now, December 2nd, he was questioned by the sheriff in Mississippi Bureau of Investigation, in which he was asked before leaving to come back the next day to take a polygraph test. He said he would. During that polygraph test, he was, let me see. Okay, December 3rd, 2009, he showed up to the sheriff department earlier, asked due to having choir practice and youth rehearsal at church. Curtis is very big in the church. He's a drummer in the prison now. He got in the sheriff's truck and immediately began questioning him about the relationship between Najalah Cage and the mother, Ann McQueeston. The victim is William McQueeston. That is who was murdered. Rest in peace. And he is the husband of Ann McQueeston. So once we arrived at the polygraph place, Curtis was taken to an office and told that a polygraph would not be given, but to say that Najalah and Ann killed William. So they wanted Curtis to say that Najalah and Ann is the one that killed William.
Wow.
After saying I couldn't, because I didn't believe that to be true, the sheriff told him to either say they did it or that he would have the Department of Human Services go get the children and lock all of them up for first-degree murder. Curtis continued to say that they did not do anything, but due to the constant threats to lock Najalah and her mom up, along with myself, and possibly end up splitting the kids, I confessed. So the law would leave the family alone. So he gave a confession. He was just saying that he did it so that they would leave the family alone, and they practiced and what went over that night, and he was kind of coached into what was saying. And then that same night, the murder weapon was confiscated by the sheriff by the cousin that they went and picked up, Betty Young. So Betty Young and Najalah are the only ones factually in presence of this murder weapon. They both had their hands on this murder weapon, right? There is still no evidence, DNA, nothing that proves that Curtis had his hand on this weapon. So as the story goes on, what ends up happening was on December 4th, Curtis was taken back to the sheriff department, and he saw that Najalah was in a jumpsuit. And automatically, he became furious because the whole reason for him making this confession was that his family was to be left alone. So now as he's coming in to sign this plea, he's seeing that his family's in there in a jumpsuit in handcuffs. So when he said that, he says, I began to say to the sheriff, you said that if I said I did it, that y'all would leave my family alone, and that I was taken to the office where I was asked to confess. But this time I said nothing because I saw that he was lying. I was taken in front of the judge and denied bail. Around March of 2010, Counsel Warren Martin Jr. of Jackson, Mississippi, met me in Montgomery County Circuit Court in the chambers, saying that due to the confession and having the weapon, the case was a deadlock against me. He said that the prosecutor said during the autopsy of the victim, blood was found under his fingernail, under the fingernail area, suggesting a form of struggle occurred. They also had to do testing on the murder weapon again. It was said that if I didn't give another confession and just pled guilty and made them go through with the forensic testing of crime scene evidence, and it came back to me as positive, they would give me the death penalty, if not. I told trial counsel to tell the prosecutor to go at testing. A warrant was served for my DNA in April 2010, but it was served and samples were taken to exclude me as a contributor on June 1st, 2010. The report came out on June 1st, 2010 that excluded him from everything. August 31st, 2010, I was transferred to another county courthouse for what was supposed to be a suppression hearing, but I was met with a plea letter from trial counsel. My family and I asked trial counsel, where was the crime lab reports? And he said the prosecutor said that they were not available. So the prosecutor told the trial counsel, this is what the trial counsel told the family, that the prosecutor told him that the DNA samples were not available. Yet trial counsel pressed me into signing a plea agreement letter. Now, thoughts on that? Let me get your thoughts on that.
Man, that stuff is so cool. I mean, at what point do we as a people say we not gonna tolerate the prosecutor fashioning a case for his win? At what point are we gonna say that we don't care about what a confession say if the evidence say something different? At what point is we gonna say that we done, the prosecutors can be sued, will be fired immediately when they had evidence of exculpatory evidence in a case? At what point? I mean, listen, I feel this because I know how it feels to be locked up for something you didn't commit. I feel it, and I know it hurts even more when the prosecutor is the orchestrator of the whole plan. It hurts, man. And there has to be an awareness brought to this case. I mean, it's in the news, true, but there needs to be more awareness brought to this case because he ain't the only one, man.
No, but I think that his case is such an open discovery of corruption that
Yes,
it opens the door for. I'm a firm believer where you see one, there's 50 you don't see.
absolutely.
You know what I mean? And but specifically speaking about this, now Najalah made a police report to the sheriff that she was on the phone with Curtis Davis on the day of the murder at the father-in-law's house, at William McQueeston's house.
Right.
This is the report that she made to the sheriff. Now,
Okay.
no evidence shows that. Because of that report that she made is why they went and did the testing on the phone and all of these things. They tested for fingerprints. No fingerprints on the phone that she's saying she spoke to him at. So why would the mother, your wife, the mother of your children, lie to the sheriff that she spoke to you when she knew it wasn't true? What would be the purpose for that?
You know what I just heard, man? I just heard whispers in the wind say that the sheriff squalls her off and told her that we're gonna take your children away if you don't support this evidence against him, you and your children going down, and he going down. So she said something that was clearly a lie, proven a lie, easily proven a lie, but because she was told to say this by the very people in power who's supposed to serve and protect, this is who told her to say it, and she was already scared. She said the one thing that could be easily proven wrong. I was talking to him while he was at his father-in-law house earlier that day during the time of when yet they could just pull the phone records and say, you lying.
Mm.
He wasn't on no, you ain't even got a phone call in your phone at that time. He ain't got one in his phone at that time. Nowhere around that time. So that means that you have to be lying. The question is, why would you lie?
Mm.
Because remember he seen her in jail? And we already know what they told him. They're going to take all the children, et cetera, et cetera. Imagine what they told her.
Mm-hmm. Now, the father, Mr. William McQueeston, had an altercation with Curtis, I believe 3 months prior to this incident, and this was the last time that Curtis was at that house. He never went back to that house after this incident, and the mother and the husband were kind of at each other. Now, this was a white man that married into a black family, right? So
Right.
I am under the thought process. I am starting to see how, now this is just me and my opinion, but I think that the mother saw an opportunity to get rid of her problems and use the daughter to pin it on Curtis. And I think that they saw it as plausible because what has not been excuse me, no, I said he was white. William McQueeston was a black man that married in, so this, I'm getting two cases confused. So forgive me for that. So this was a whole black family, but William had money. William had money and he dealt with white people. So he had money and he was dealing with white people. Now, going back to this here, I believe that the wife, the mother, and the father had issues, and whatever those issues were, whether she wanted his money or whatever the issues were, but she saw an opportunity to use Curtis as a pawn, because what has not been mentioned yet is Curtis was on probation. He was on 5 years probation with a 20-year suspended sentence, 15 years suspended sentence, I believe.
Wow.
And this
Okay.
was for a prior case of statutory rape. And this was of a younger man dating a younger daughter, a younger female. He thought that she was older than what she was, but they had consent of the mother for the most part, because the relationship was in front of the mother was in the house, things of that nature. And when the case came out, the mother was in support of the fact that it was consensual. I believe that the mother even went to the court and gave the court the fact that she consented to it. However, whatever, that's a separate case. But he was on statutory suspended sentence for that. Now, with that being said, I think that came into play with this decision that they could say we could easily put this on Curtis and he would be gone for a long time because he's got a suspended sentence on top of what this charge would be.
Yeah. How about this? Everything you said, but how about this one here? To Curtis's wife, the sheriff says along the same lines, not only is he gonna squeeze her and have her locked up and have her children placed in foster care, but here it is, young lady. This is the sheriff. Here it is, young lady. You are covering up for a guy who messes with children.
Mm-hmm.
And you have children, but yet you're covering up for them.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to take your children from you because we suspect that something was going on in the house with children, because he is probably on the registry for that type of crime, which now makes the girl even more fearful of her life and her children's well-being. And it makes it more easier under pressure, being coerced, to say whatever they wanted to say. See, I say this because I was just telling somebody a little bit about how I ended up in prison, and how hold on one sec, how someone literally said that they was with me when I killed this guy, and I didn't kill him, nor was they with me. But because the police beat on him, the police said that he was going to be charged with first-degree murder alongside me. Police said that we know that you sell drugs for Demetrius. We know y'all hang around each other. You know, it made it that easier for him to point the finger at me and say that he was even with me. Because when you're getting beat up, when you're being coerced with the tactics that they use, especially when they're using children as the pawn, a mother is always going to be protective of those children.
No question. Well, absolutely. No question. And I would think a woman would do that 10 out of 10 times, cut off her husband or anybody for the children. At least in my experience, the women I've ever met, you know what I mean, would do that, and I've seen them do that. I've seen them get men locked up just to get them out of their children's life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So now in 2011, the attorney filed a post-conviction motion claiming that the lab reports had just surfaced, stating that he's excluded as a contributor to all evidence found, to include fingerprints found on the murder weapon, footprints found around and near the crime scene. They actually went to his house and got his Timberland boots out of the house to try to match it up. So no footprints found near the crime scene, and fingerprints found on the house phone. Nothing. He claimed that the prosecutor then withheld the reports up to 9 months after being convicted, and that results exonerated Curtis, and that the reports were newly discovered evidence The state denied that motion June 5th, 2011, stating that the lab reports were made available to trial counsel prior to being given the plea and that lab reports were not material to the conviction. Now,
Wow.
and then after that, the trial counsel quit. And I've tried to reach out to this Warren. I called on 4 different occasions, got his secretary, left detailed messages, left emails. He's never contacted me back. I've reached out to Najalah on Facebook as Kismet Cage. And again, no response from her. I know she's seen him. So this is the secrecy is what drives me, because if you're holding secrets and you're not cooperating, that tells me that there's more to the story.
Yes.
Now, my thing is this as well, right? Speaking on the judge, if our judges were truly unbiased and they were true judges of the court, how could a judge sit there and take a plea bargain from an individual knowing that DNA reports excluded this individual without doing some sort of competency test on this person? Because who in their right mind would take a plea to a murder when all evidence shows that they're not guilty? Now, people do that.
Yeah.
There are people that try to claim murders and things like that, but these are insane people, and they're found that way. So why didn't this judge, if the DNA reports were made available to the trial counsel prior to him pleading out, why did the judge accept that plea without doing some sort of competency test, or even asking Curtis, like, do you know what you're doing? Are you okay with this? Really, honestly? There's none of that. Who in their right mind takes a plea knowing that you're not guilty? And there's evidence showing that you're not guilty.
Wow.
So I doubt very seriously that Curtis saw those reports. I doubt very seriously that the attorney saw those reports. The attorney got paid. He got his money. He don't give a shit. He's out of there. It's like, this is too much to deal with, you know. But what do we do in these instances when these prosecutors have the, you know, you can't touch them. They have this immunity clause on them.
That's amazing, man. I mean, it's so hurtful and painful, man, and it's so traumatizing that it's hard to even get a prosecutor to get them arrested. Get same way we was arrested. When it comes out that they was involved in corruption, they need that same type of arrest, those same handcuffs, that same rough up by the officer. They need that same funky dog smelling cell that we had. They need them same dirty drawers and dirty socks that they gave us coming through quarantine. They need that. But how do we get them to be held responsible for their acts of corruption? Because they're sending people to prison. One second. They're sending people to prison who for crimes that they know people didn't do, but yet they still allowed to keep doing it. So it's something that we have to do to really get that straight. And I think that what we do is we keep marching and beating that criminal justice reform drum and trying to get those prosecutors out of office who are not representative of the people. That's how we got the one thing that we got to our favor is if we vote.
Yeah. Or not vote.
We can't beat
whatever we do, we got to do. No, definitely not going to beat them in a courtroom, because the whole court process is corrupt. So
right.
You're not beating them in a courtroom. We have to tear the whole court process down, as ludicrous as it sounds, but the whole court process is unconstitutional. Now, a few more facts. Now, Najalah, the wife, was doing a secret divorce. She was actually already planning a divorce from Curtis in the midst of all of this. So what you say is very plausible that sheriff could have came to her and told her, "Listen, you put this guy in prison. You don't have to deal with custody. You don't have to deal with none of that."
Yeah.
And also, the day that William was killed, he was supposed to be at a business meeting, but instead he was buying another. He was out buying a car for another woman. So he was having an affair on the wife,
Wow.
and he was known to be a woman beater, a woman, a woman abuser. So I I'm almost convinced, man, that and the mother is deceased now. I believe that the mother has passed and it's just the daughter. And I'm first and foremost, I know for a fact that Curtis didn't kill this man.
Yeah.
I know that Curtis didn't kill this man, and the thing of it is that he can't get any play because these organizations don't want to touch him because of the statutory rape, right? Which he's innocent of that. So this is a guy, going back to the top of the conversation, who's in prison all on his own, has no support, had to watch his kids grow up thinking that he's a whatever this family has been telling his kids, if the kids even know that this man is alive.
Right.
You know what I mean? And this is a man who's been incarcerated for 17 years now.
17 years, man. I really feel for him, man. That's why we out here fighting the way we fight, man. And I got brothers that's Marvin Cotton Jr., who is the owner of Better Not Broken, the National Organization of Exonerees. They go from state to state trying to help people out, man, because we understand how this system works. We understand it all too well because we've been a victim of it. And it's just, to me, I'm as I'm looking at the case and learning more facts, because I'm growing with the facts of the case. So as I learn more, I grow more, and my ideas began to change, because he was a womanizer, a woman beater. His wife was about to file for divorce, so naturally she had some animosity towards him, you know, and she made up a good old lie towards him. And her mother, we could say her mother pushed her towards it, but in any event, everything to me points at she was either coerced, or she set him up, or she framed him.
I believe I believe she definitely framed him, because that's why she called and made the report that he was at the house. She had to place Curtis at the house.
Yes.
And who else is going to make that report that the sheriff is going to believe? Not the mother, not anybody. But if the wife says that, that's believable. This is your spouse. Why would she lie? Why would she say that she talked to you on the phone if you didn't? You know what I mean?
Right.
They had to place Curtis. They had to place Curtis at the crime scene, and that was it. I spoke to him right before this happened.
And they placed him at the crime scene with a reliable person, a person that a jury would say, well, why would she have to lie on him? That's his wife.
The mother of his children. And he's already convicted of crime. And his crime is one that is despicable amongst jurors or society in itself.
Yes. Yes. And I think that if a proper investigation is had, it would start with everybody. It would start with his wife. It would start with her because she placed him at the crime scene. But there's no evidence to support her. So it would start with her, and it would spread out from there.
Sure, because
I think
she lied. She lied under oath.
Yes. And I think a good, thorough investigation would unveil and uncover a lot of helpful information that could be used to exonerate him.
That's right. That's right. Because I'm not looking to send nobody else to prison. I'm looking to uncover the corruption of the government and what the prosecutors do, and uncover the fact that this man is innocent and get him home from prison.
Right.
And put the guilty party, whoever is guilty, needs to be in his place. You know what I mean? But this case needs awareness. It needs awareness. You know, you mentioned a name prior, but, you know, in all honesty, facts are facts. I reached out to him and his publicists and several other people about several cases, and I was promised that they would get back with me. You know, this individual was running for you know, what he was running for in August and all this. They promised me they'd get back to me on some of these cases. Never heard a peep back, not one peep. I've reached out to them several times, don't even respond until this man's book came out. And then I get a message, you know, in Messenger about, you know, share my book or whatever. So but at that point, but these are some of the issues, right? Some of the issues that I have being on this is the halfway for me.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, it's picking and choosing. It's halfway. It's, well, maybe here, maybe not there. And that frustrates me. And I get it from some points, because some people say, well, it's easier to get some people out than it is others and such. But for me, I'm a firm believer that we need to start with the individuals who's been in there the longest.
I agree. We said that when it came to juvenile lifers. We need to get the people, and I'm a juvenile lifer. We said we need to get the people out who've been in here all this time first. Get them a shot. You know, and that's what needs to happen now. But when you have a case like this, man, with so many controversial facts and so many facts that just so many what the prosecutor called facts that don't make sense and not backed up by evidence, which obviously means it's not facts. These are the type of cases that needs the greatest of attention, and from the courts, from investigators, from whoever else that can contribute to exposing the corruption in this case, and not only exposing the corruption, but exposing the truth that will exonerate him.
Amen. You know, because nobody deserves this, man. You know, at the end of the day, if a person is innocent, man, why are they in prison, and why are we not listening to them? You know, and this is where I get on the inmates as well. You know, if you know you're not innocent, stop with the bullshit, right?
Yeah.
Stop with it, because you muddy up the waters and you're hurting the people who are truly innocent trying to get word, because now, of course, you know the moniker out here, oh, everybody's innocent. Everybody says they're innocent in prison. You know, so it's a whole lot of stuff, man. But we chip away at it with little that we can. But listen, I'm gonna let you get on your way, partner. You got you a flight to the ATL.
Oh no, we driving.
Oh, you're driving there?
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness. How long is that? 10 hours?
That's 11 hours.
11 hours. I was close.
Yeah.
Why are you driving, partner?
It's like it's gonna be 5 of us, so that ain't a long drive.
Are you taking a road trip then?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I'm good. I'm gonna be asleep. I'm gonna be the last one to drive, so I'm good.
All right, homeboy. Well, you stay safe, man, on the road, man, and we'll be back at it next week.
I want people to know this here, man. This is what I want anybody within the sound of my voice to understand. Martin Luther King once said, a threat to justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. It's the reason why we come talk to y'all about this stuff. The reason why is because we know that just like it's him, tomorrow it might be you if you don't help end this trend of prosecutorial corruption.
Amen. Amen. That's my message, and every word I spit is about what is going on with this prison industrial system and how it is attacking the poor community and how it's tearing apart our communities, and it's almost impossible to raise children in a productive manner anymore. You know,
Right,
so. Man, God bless you, D. More power to you, man. And we'll catch you on the flip side. Please be safe.
Absolutely. Peace. Y'all be safe, and we out.
We out, man. Much love.